Hi everyone, Kieran of Sapien here from Filmstorm Studios, and today we're going to do something really exciting, and I've had a lot of requests for it. We're finally going to have a look at Unreal Engine. And basically, it's really easy to get started. I mean, it's a pretty technical engine compared to what Unity is. There's a lot more stuff going on. But to get started, all you need to do is go over to unrealengine.com and download their package. You can just come up to the top and go download, and then they'll bring you here, and you can just click whichever operating system you're running. But we're using Windows, so once that's all set up, you're going to make an account, sign in, and then you'll pretty much be greeted with either the Learn or Community screen. And this is a really good place to get started. It's got a lot of good tips like getting started. It's got all your different things depending on what you want to do. But today we're going to just show you how to get started. So what we've done is we've installed the latest engine, which is 4.19. So you just come up to engine versions, and you can click there if you don't see any, and then you can pick which version you want. But of course, we've got 1.9, so you won't be able to see that in the list because that's already installed. So if we just say launch, that's going to bring up like our new project manager, so that way we can create some projects. And usually for the first time, it takes a little bit of time to gather all its resources and compile in the background. So I'll come back to you when that loads. All right, so I'm back. Just made a coffee and we're all good to go now. So you can see that we have this new little Unreal project browser. And we can either pick a project that we've been working on, or if you have samples that you've downloaded. This Infiltrator one's really, really cool to check out. It's really cool to check out how they've done all the matinee and the cinematics and everything in there, which is pretty sweet. But we want to come over, and you have the choice of doing Blueprint or C++. We're going to do some C++ later, once we get more technical into it. But for now, let's just go with a simple third person, just so we can have a little play around, put some blueprints in, and feel really good about ourselves. So just pick a new folder. We want to just call it TPS project demo. Let's keep the starter content, and we'll just keep it maximum quality. If you're running on a laptop, you could always change it down or change it to like a mobile tablet, so that way it's not as intensive. So let's go create, and this will probably take a little bit of time as well to populate. And if you're doing a C++ project, that will take even longer because it actually has to compile the entire engine the first time. So that usually takes about maybe 15 minutes on a pretty good system. So again, you'll be churning through your coffees pretty quickly. So we're already at 91%, but sometimes it could be deceptive that it might take longer. So we'll just see how this goes. All right, so this is the first screen that you're greeted with in the Unreal Engine. If this is the first time that you're checking this out, or I mean, you might have been downloaded and played around with it a bit. Let me just give you the general overflow. So you can right mouse click in here and look around, and you can use the WSAD keys, kind of like a game, to fly around the screen. And if you're holding the right mouse button in still, you can press Q and E to go up and down, which is pretty cool. So that makes you go up and down. And then if you're flying around too quickly, you can come up to this camera speed. And if you press W now, you'll be going really slowly. Or again, if you churn it all the way up to 8, you'll be like flying in and out everywhere. And the same as Maya, say we click on this dude and we press F, you can frame. So say we're like over here, we're not looking at him, you can press F, snap back. So that's a cool little shortcut just to get you started if you've got objects and everything. Now, like Unity, we have the hierarchy over here. So this is basically that. And then, the inspector panel, this is the details panel. So this is basically, essentially, it's everything's on the right-hand side from the default layout from Unity. So, and it's pretty much the same. I mean, there's a lot more kind of different terming. Like after I've been playing around with it for a while, like there's a lot more of like these components which make up the character. I mean, like in Unity, you'd have to set up the whole camera system, but in Unreal, it's actually really nice that they do a lot of that coding for you, and then you can come in and just adjust little bits and pieces. So how do we get started? Just say we want to, let's just play around and make like a little room, and let's make some lights trigger on and off. Like, how would we do that? All right, so let's just say, let's just press play to see what happens. So you have to click inside. So we've got this this pretty goofy guy running with his default Unreal animation. And we'll do another tutorial next to show you how to replace these and also do some retargeting, which I have seen not many people cover very simply. There's actually a really cool way to do it, so I'll show you guys that. But yeah, as you can see, we've got this guy. So let's kind of move the perspective into more of a third-person like kind of system just for now, and then we'll come back and refine it. So there's two ways to get your blueprints out, and blueprints are kind of like you know how we were doing tutorials on Playmaker and like all that kind of visual scripting. This is like a really powerful system that Unreal and Epic have built. It's basically like Playmaker, but like a lot more information and everything kind of passes through it. This is like stuff that they use on Gears of War and all those really high-end games that you see. So two ways to get into it. You have third-person character, and you can. This is basically this guy. So you can see that outlines and brings up the camera associated with that in here, kind of like what Unity does if you click the camera. So we want to come over, and you can click here. So click to edit the blueprint. Or you can actually come down and into this guy, I believe, and here. And then this is like another quick way. Sometimes the blueprints don't actually reside depending on how you set up, but because this is the actual content, so this is the actual mesh, the physics asset, and the skeleton. So we're going to cover that in the next tutorial. So it basically makes 3 different assets when you bring in a character. So we'll show you about that. But if you come back, you'll see third-person BP. And if you want to see kind of like a hierarchy, you can click this little button here. This is the sources panel. And this is very familiar to how Unity kind of does it. So you can even scale up these guys like what was in a Unity. So if you really want it to all be the same, you can make it like lists or columns with all your details. So it makes it really nice, and it shows you like how many blueprints are inside each folder and stuff. So that's nice. So let's so going back, we've got third-person BP and blueprints, and then you'll see this third-person character. And if I clicked this one, this is what would open. So this is the thing that drives this character. So if we double-click on here, we'll have this little window, and you can actually grab these tabs and drag them up here like an Internet Explorer. And now we have this. So again, moving around in here, we have right mouse button. So that makes you drag around, and the mouse wheel make you zoom in and out. And that's pretty much it for that. And then you can see we have all these little things going on. Don't be intimidated. It's actually pretty simple once you get your head around it. So basically this is your gamepad. So this is like your Xbox controller, and this is your mouse input. So this is turning the camera. So you add controller and this is jump. So you have all these input action buttons. Now, these input action buttons, these all come from, where are we? Jump back to here. Go to settings and project settings. So you know in Unity where you go up to edit inputs, and then this is where you can see it, or project setting inputs. This is basically where we can go to change those inputs in Unreal. So if you go down to this little input, so I'm in project settings, scroll down, input, and then you'll see we have these little action mappings and axes. So here we have move forward, and then they've put all these in for you. Move right, and then move right is also move left, because you know when you make it a negative value like they have here, that makes it move left, and the scale is move right. So that's how that works. And same as move forward. Move forward is also move back. So if you're like, oh, why isn't there a move back? That's because you can actually just make the different scales, so that way the character moves forwards and backwards. Then you also have turn rate, which is when you're moving the camera around, turn and looking up and looking down. So these are all kind of axes. These goes between, like, they're a float value that goes between like 0 and 1, and you can like lerp between it, which means you can smoothly move that number. So then you also have action mappings, which is more of like, it's definitely a Boolean. So that means it's either a yes or a no. Am I pushing it or am I not pushing it? And that's like a jump. So you're going to push the jump or you're not going to push the jump. And that's either a yes or a no. So you have these are just spacebar, or like these are different buttons. So you can be like bam, 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 and then like that. So that's how you set up these input bindings, they call it. So, and then there's heaps of other little bits and pieces, but you don't have to worry about that for now. So let's just jump out of there and let's go back to that tab. So we have all this cool little stuff. So this is basically the movement. We're getting the control rotation, we're breaking it apart. So basically you're just separating the vector. So vector 3 has 3 vectors, and then you're just going to break that, use that Z, which is the yaw, and then you're going to plug that into these two. So basically that way it moves the character. And so if we press play, you can see that this is what's driving. And if I move this over and zoom out, just move this down here like this, and I press play. Can you see all these little red lines that are firing? That means that way we can actually see what's happening. You can actually debug this when we get further into it, so you can actually see lots of different things that are happening. And when we're going in and out of the room to trigger the lights, this is how we can actually test it. And one little trick is why I like to parent this up in here, is because when you press play, see how this screen just stays here, but if you had this here, see it now, it pops up over the top of it, which is really nice. That way you can actually just keep, and you can quickly test things going in and out. All right, so let's get into it. Let's have a look at how we're going to set up this room. So let's go into like geometry meshes. So we're content geometry meshes, and you can also see some here. So let's just do something like super simple. Let's just drag this guy out, and I'm using the W. So W is move, E is rotate. You can see we've got snapping, which is all these are different snapping. So you've got enable or disable snapping when dragging around. So this is moving, this is rotating, and this is scaling. So if you're scaling and it's like, I want this to be more precise, whack this on, and let's press F, and now you can see that it snaps to 0.25 values, or you can adjust this to different things. So let's just fix this guy up. That should do it, and I'm not going to waste too much time, so it's just a simple room. And we can go Control C, Control V, and that's just going to, or I believe, is it Control, drag that, Control C, and let's just drag that. All right, let's just not even worry about a roof. Let's just keep it pretty simple. All right, so if we press play, you can see that it also gives us this little warning, which is nice for the lighting needs to be rebuilt. So you can see we've got this dude, he can't walk or run into any of the walls, which is really nice. All has a collision setup. So how do we make a little blueprint to say, okay, we want him to be able to trigger a light. And so first thing is, well, we need the light. So let's go up to this. So this is kind of where Unreal keeps all its like basic things. It's got little geometries, it's got volumes, which we're going to actually use this trigger volume to trigger the light. And this has all of them. So basically we're just going to search for a point light. Let's drag this in. Let's like move it up to the top. And to see down here, if I drag this up again, we have the light, and this is basically all of the stuff. So you can see we have intensity, we have the radius of how far we want. So let's just drag that down to like maybe that far. Let's make it 550, and let's make the intensity like just nice and like, let's make it 100 just for now, so we can actually see what's happening. Let's make the light like this cool like sci-fi blue. All right, so here we are. We've got this light. We'll click play, and you can see it looks really nice on our dude. So how can we make it so when we go into this little box, it's actually going to turn the light on and off? Our first interaction with the world, well, it's quite simple. Let's go up to here, and let's look up volume. Alrighty, and let's come down to trigger volume. Let's drag that into this little room. And scale this guy up. So you basically want to have it so you make sure that the guy's always going to be able to run into it. All right, so we have this trigger volume, we've got the light. Now how can we all make this talk together? So let's come up into this blueprints, and probably one of the easiest ways is to do a level blueprint, because this is only going to happen in the level that you're in. If you're going to be doing it constantly and just dragging these kind of things out, we can make it into like this little component package inside an actor that will always keep happening. But for now, let's just keep it nice and simple. Let's just do it inside this level blueprint. So let's click here, and as you can see, it's pretty much all empty. There's nothing going on in here. So what we want to do is make sure we have the trigger volume selected. Let's come into here, let's right mouse click, let's see what we have. Now in blueprints, right mouse clicking gives you all these different options, and there's a lot of different options. But the best thing about having this selected is that when you come in and right mouse click, it actually gives you specific options for what you've selected. So that makes coding really easy. Now you might think we want to just create a reference, but if we come to add event, we get even more things. So basically what trigger volume is we want to see if we're colliding with something, and that's what we want to happen. So we want to say add on actor begin overlap, and let's click in here. So we have this guy, we're bringing this guy in, and we also want to see if we're going to finish the overlap, so on end overlap. So there you go. Now we also want to find that point light. So we want to say if this, let's actually turn it off, so that way when we walk into the room, it's going to turn on and it's going to turn off. So let's just turn this visibility off just for now. Now let's come into here, and since we have this point light selected, let's right mouse click and create a reference to the point light. Now this is basically just seeing how it says stores a reference to an actor in the level. So basically we're just getting that light and we're holding it in this blueprint, but now we need to tell it to do something. So let's drag out and let's say trigger or is visible, I think is yes, here we are, set visibility. So we want to set visibility for, let's just say, the light component, and here we are. Now this might seem like bit weird what's going on. So basically we just want to drag this into here and drag this into here. So basically if we begin overlapping, we might want to make this a toggle, so that way it's going to toggle visibility light component. There we are. Delete this guy off, because when this triggers, it's going to trigger it on, and when this triggers, it's going to turn it off. So basically, it's only going to be one or the other. The other way, you could have just done it separately. We could have done it separately. Let me just show you that one. We could just say is visible. I'll set visibility, and you can have this one. So let me just delete this guy, and that's we won't worry about that just for now. So you could have this come into here and then set yes, and then this come into here and then say off. So basically this value here is going to stipulate whether it's on or off. Okay, but for now let's just get rid of everything. So basically we're back at the start, we've got the point light selected. Let's create a reference to the point light. Let's now toggle the visibility, and let's drag these two into here. All right, so see what we're saying. So we're getting the point light. It's just basically put this little thing in to say we want that light component part, and we're going to be toggling that visibility. And how we're going to be toggling that visibility is when the actor overlaps with that trigger volume or stops overlapping with that trigger volume. So if we click this little compile button, it's going to tell us if there's any problems, which looks like there isn't, which is nice. So if we click play, we run over here, boom, and we run out, we've created our first little interaction with the world. So if your character's supposed to not go in like a room, you can like trigger these red lights to go on and be like, oh no, you shouldn't be going in there. But let's do some like little refinement. Let's say we want to put like a little delay in those lights turning on. Let's go and drag this in, and let's type in delay. And we can also plug this guy into here. So you can see we have a duration of 0.2. So this is gonna, every time this triggers, or these two trigger, it's gonna go through here and give it a delay of 0.2. So here we go. When we walk into this room, it won't go on straight away. See, there's a bit of a delay, and we can make this more pronounced by making it like say 1 or not 41. We'll be waiting forever. Let's then compile, click play. Boom. There you go. So that's our first look at how to create just something basic inside Unreal. I mean, you have to start out somewhere, and it's good just to dip your toes. And I mean, you can always come in, just play around. You can maybe try to have the lights pulsate coming on and off. That would be a fun little thing to try out. But thank you everyone for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial where we'll cover just maybe changing some of those animations and having a little look at how the animation blueprints side of it works. So thank you so much for checking this out, and I hope you stay tuned. Thank you. Bye.